And Friends comes away with a rebound and a chance to take the lead. 33-32, Emerlehu going for the lead from the left wing. Emerlehu with the triple on the move, ready to run her from 8 feet. No, Jackson snares down the miss and then puts it home for the right side. Jackson in double figures for Friends. Trey Reed looking inside, off to Emerlehu, turns down to 3, kicks it left wing to Trey Reed. He drives in the lane, now to the rim, scoops it up and in, and he got fouled. 7. Tabor ahead with 1:40 to go in overtime. Here's Garner, strong move to the cup on Zoe Rust. She throws it up and makes it, and she gets fouled for one more. Friends ahead, Barberry goes up, and he flushes it down. Barberry taking flight and getting a body in the process. What's going on, Falcon Nation? This is the voice of the Friends Falcons, Pat Strathman, here with another edition of the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. We are back at Walk On Sports Bistreaux. A little bit of a break from this place the last couple of weeks, but when you have Thanksgiving and all that stuff going on, it's a little bit tougher to work around schedules. Plus, it's the basketball season that's getting underway. Things are a little bit different. But, hey, Walk On Sports Bistreaux, it is always reliable game day food, game day atmosphere, the game day food with a southern twist, the game day atmosphere that you can expect, whether it's football, basketball, you name it. This is the place to be, Walk On Sports Bistreaux. We certainly appreciate their support of Friends University Athletics. Well, tonight you'll hear from Friends men's basketball coach Phil McClintock. The Friends men's basketball team coming off a loss to Bethany. The Falcons will take on the Ottawa Braves coming up on Saturday. You can catch it on the KCAC network in Cox 122. 5 o'clock is when coverage officially begins with the women's basketball game, and then shortly after will be the men's action at 7 o'clock from the Garvey Center. Well, Coach, it's been a hot second. I know Thanksgiving was last week. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving. Shortly before then, you guys had a game against Haskell, and you guys were able to get the win, which is good. But I think when you look at games, you're always going to look at conference games and kind of look at those and go, well, those kind of matter maybe a little bit more to some. So let's just go back to what we saw on Wednesday night against the Bethany Swedes. You guys went to Lindsborg. You fell 84-71. At the half, though, you were within 6. But in the second half, sometimes in that place, you can say this about maybe every school in the conference. If you go somewhere, it can spiral out of control in a hurry. But I think it's no truer than in Lindsborg because it feels kind of tighter. It's a unique kind of floor. Things are just a little bit different. So your thoughts on what you saw on Wednesday night against Bethany?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously wasn't very fun. We definitely could have played better. And that's been kind of our MO on the road so far. You know, we're young, and I think we need some guys that are going to step up in those tough conditions. Because you're right. I mean, I've been to Bethany a million times. You never know what you're going to get, and they like to feed off their crowd. They had a good crowd last night, and they, were able to make some shots. And in those times, we got to get stops, and you got to get great looks. And we just weren't very tough, and we're kind of soft in those aspects. So. There were some positive things, We got off to a good start. We were within 4, and then they scored at the buzzer on a layup. So within 6, though, and then the beginning of the second half, awful. And we were able to. This team has showed that they just don't quit and kind of crawl back into it a little bit there. But definitely disappointing in the loss. But we have to get better on the road.
Yeah, well, Bethany offensively, the Swedes were over 50% for the game. They were 54%. They were 50% at half, and then they were 56% in half number 2. So they were able to make some shots. What did Bethany do to make it challenging from the defensive standpoint?
Well, they played together. That's one thing I told our guys. I'm like, hey, and we have at times, but on the road you have to play together. And Bethany had 23 assists. 23 assists. And that was probably the best they've shared the ball, and they did. they moved it well, and we just weren't tough enough to continue to guard because we did have some possessions there, especially in the first half where we did guard. And then they, swing it around and move it and make a shot. And then, I think a lot of their assists came from, loss of contain. We kind of, in the second half, they were able to drive kind of wherever they wanted and scored a lot of dump downs, made some kick out threes. So they, hats off to them. They definitely won the game, and they kind of imposed their will on both ends on us. So
Yeah, well, the thing is, you have those games, and with a young team, as you brought up, a team that's still trying to gel, you try to be mentally prepared for when you do go on the road, but it's not like there's a button you could press, though, right? It's not like there's a button you could press to just make it happen like that.
no, I mean, we've talked about it some. Like, hey, we knew that we hadn't won on the road, and we're like, hey, let's make this our first one. And I was trying to make a big deal about it, and maybe that backfired. Maybe it was my fault. So it's just the little things that you have to do, and you have to have some guys step up on both ends. There's a leadership, aspect to it. There's a toughness aspect, and we're young and we're inexperienced, and some of these guys haven't won a whole lot. So those are all excuses. So, and it's not acceptable. And so they know that. So we'll watch the film, and we'll try to get better from it. And luckily, our next one's at home, but then we go on the road again. So, I mean, that's how it works. So we'll get better, and we'll keep working. So.
Friends men's basketball coach Phil McClintock here on the latest Friends basketball show from Walk On Sports Bistreaux. The Falcons falling to the Bethany Swedes 84-71 on Wednesday. Well, it was a loss. All right, got that out of the system. Let's go back to the Haskell game a little bit, because I do want to touch a little bit on that game as well as the game against McPherson, because those are wins. You take down Haskell 103-99, and I know some people probably just look at Haskell and think, all right, well, it's a program that hasn't had a double-digit win season in a long time. But I got to say, watching that game and seeing how they played, that is a tough team to play just because of how they operate. They really push. They shoot quickly. They're in your face. They never gave up, and they're never afraid of the moment. They are always right there in that game. So with you guys getting that win 103-99, how pleased were you to have that type of performance going into the Thanksgiving break?
I mean, I'm happy with any win right now. In Haskell, they made 15 threes against us, and the next night not the next night, but the next game they played against Midland, they won, and they made 15 threes again. So, I mean, they can really shoot it, and we, maybe we let them get going a little bit, but they hit some tough ones in our face late, and it was good for us because we had to make plays down the stretch. We had to be organized down the stretch. Same with the MAC game too. I mean, I think any close games we can be in, hopefully we want to win those. But I mean, I think we'll learn from those games, just trying to execute, because those are things that we're just not great at right now. Execution, getting stops when we need them. I mean, and those were things that we were required to do against Haskell to win. So.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was a really tough game to play at home, though. That certainly helps on your end. You guys were able to shoot the ball pretty well in that contest, and from beyond the arc, you guys were really good in the first half. You guys were 7 of 15 from beyond the arc, but in half number 2, you only had 3 3-pointers, and you didn't hit them. You tried all 3, but didn't work. But I think the one that you said in postgame that I find interesting is when you're facing a team that does like to chuck up a bunch of threes, a team that can make those threes at a high clip, sometimes you get in that mode of getting a three-point contest. It's college basketball today, I feel like. People want to go for the three ball. You're not exactly looking for mid-range jumpers anymore. Yeah, you get to the rim, but something about that three ball being the ultimate equalizer. And so many people just get so caught up in that. In the second half, you only attempted 3 threes, but I think that says a lot about the discipline that your team showed on that night.
Yeah, we've definitely proven that we can score and play in a lot of different ways. So, and I appreciate that with this team. I mean, obviously we scored over 100 points. In the game before against MAC, we didn't make a lot of threes. I think we maybe made one in the second half against MAC, but I mean we just weren't shooting a lot of threes, and we were getting to the rim and being tough and moving the ball, which is great. And so the problem with this team is, I mean, when you play a team like Bethany, well, we didn't shoot it very well. Well, are you disciplined enough to move it and find multiple sides? And do you have guys out there who are wanting to make plays for others? I mean, because we just, if you look at that film, I mean, we were kind of dialed in. Hey, we shot it well the last couple games. Let's just go get our own shot. Well, that doesn't work when you're on the road, and Bethany was playing well defensively. So we're able to play in different ways, but we also have to learn of how you can win and what you have to do when it's winning time, when times are tough. So
Yeah. Phil McClintock, our guest. men's basketball coach at Friends University here on the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM, broadcasting from Walk-On Sports Bistreaux once again. In that game, Keon Hutton was able to score 24 points in that contest, also added 4 assists, 7 boards. He was 10 of 12 from the floor, made a couple free throws when you needed it. I know Keon is still young, and that's really the basis of this team, being extremely young. But Keon last year not able to play in the second semester. This year he's available at this point, and you're hoping for a healthy Keon Hutton for the rest of the way. What are some of the differences you've seen from him? I know this is just year number 1 for you, but you saw him on tape. You saw him what he was like in that first semester last year for Friends. In what ways has he been able to grow so far this season?
Yeah, he's been really good. I mean, for this team, I mean, he's 1 of 6 against Bethany. I mean, why? I don't know. And so, I mean, he's got to figure out how to make an impact. Like, we got a lot of guys that are like that. Like, you have to make an impact when shots aren't falling. What can you do, on the other end? Can you get some runouts? Can you get boards? I've been really happy with him. He's been good. He's been good on both ends. It took him a couple games to get going, but after I think our first probably 2, he, has been a huge motor guy, which we have to have him just to make an impact on the game. And he's been hard. Like, I mean, in the MAC game and the Haskell game, he's one of the best players on the floor in both those games. And, we had to have him out there 30-plus minutes just because you can't take guys like that out. And so I've been really happy. I just think the growth, I mean, he needs to be able to score. Can he get his own bucket? Can he create for others? Just becoming a more complete player, because when Keon is playing hard and playing at a high level, I mean, he's really good. And so just kind of expanding his game is what we're looking for him to do, just to where he can be go from being a good starter to an all-conference, All-American potentially type player. He's that good.
Well, one game we haven't had a chance to recap is the win against McPherson. You get the win 70-66. If you were to just stop there, you go, all right, nip and tuck all the way through. I don't know how many people would think that you fell behind 18-0 right off the bat in that basketball game. I know it was a long time ago, but did I get a chance to really recap that contest? Just a lot of fight from your team, as you brought up from the game on Wednesday against Bethany, able to show that fight, which is great. You're down 18-0 in a hole. Like, most times when that happens, you're probably going to lose. Maybe you'll lose by 15. You'll find a way that will balloon out to like maybe 25. You'll battle back, make it 15, and so on and so forth. But this time around, you guys fell in that 18-0 hole, and you guys came right back. You made it a 3-point ball game at halftime, and then you made some big plays down the stretch. So your thoughts on that conference win against McPherson at home?
Yeah, that was a huge win for us because they were 5-0 at the time,
right?
And we didn't have any big wins, and so obviously we were coming off a loss at K-Dub where we played solid, and so that was a huge win, just kind of confirming that we can actually win some games and can compete with good teams. I've never seen. I've asked a lot of coaches, being down actually 18-0, like you've seen a lot of bad starts. But I don't know that nobody has been like, oh yeah, well, we were down 20-0 or 25. I mean, it was that bad. So, one thing about this team, I mean, we're not always good at basketball, but we never quit. And I told the guys after our game against Bethany the same thing, like, hey, I know there's one thing that we're not going to quit no matter what happens, and they know that, and I do appreciate that. So, they battle back, and to make it 3 at halftime, I mean, is good, and then to obviously finish that out because we expended a lot of energy, and we had to slow the game down a little bit, which because we were pretty tired. So, but being able to win those games is huge, and especially for a young team.
Yeah, well, KJ Spiller in that game, he had a couple big threes down the stretch, finished with 19 points. I think that was the one that you're looking at KJ, and I know against Bethany he was in double figures again with 13. You kind of look at him and you see new players that come in, a transfer from Metropolitan, and sometimes sometimes it takes a full semester and then they'll figure it out. Sometimes guys come right in and they fit right in. Most cases, it usually takes about a year before you really get them settled in, before they really know the system and they really trust everyone and they're able to do some different things. But based on what I've seen from KJ so far, I know at the very beginning of the year there were some moments, but every time I watch him, I feel like there's been a little bit more coming out of him, just a little bit more. I don't want to sit here and label people as who's your most consistent player as of right now. I don't want to do that, but KJ's been playing some good basketball.
Yeah, we always said at Ottawa that usually is your second year in a transfer is usually when they actually feel comfortable. So, and I don't know how if KJ's even super comfortable. I mean, even now. But, I mean, the one thing that changed for KJ is it took him a long time, but he started playing hard. And he's a good defender and playing hard on the offensive end. And once he started playing hard, he figured out, hey, things are going to come, pretty naturally to me basketball-wise. But he's getting better and better. I mean, he's one of our better players on both ends, and I think offensively he's going to have to shoulder a lot of the load. And he can get to the rim, he can shoot, and once hopefully our other guys can realize we can get some ball movers out there that, hey, KJ shooting is a good thing for us, and maybe even instead of me, so because we got a lot of guys that like to put it up and like to drive to get their own. So, but us, I mean, we're starting to put in more plays for KJ, and hey, how can we get him the ball in his spots? And he's been getting comfortable, and he's been good lately.
Friends men's basketball coach Phil McClintock here on the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. We're here at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux, a place that we frequent. We try to be here every single week. Sometimes things change up, but right now we are here at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. The Friends men's basketball team so far this season, 3-4, 1-2 in conference play after a loss to Bethany, but there was a conference win against Mac that we just got done recapping, 70-66. Well, Coach, you're taking on Ottawa on Saturday. I know a thing or two about the Ottawa Braves, but before we talk about that, just want to kind of talk a little bit more about your squad. I think so far to this point, as you brought up, there are times maybe we're not playing the best basketball. Right now, is that the toughest thing, just trying to build that consistency, trying to make maybe an 8-minute window turn into a 12-minute window, taking or maybe minimizing the other windows, maybe having a bad 8-minute stretch or 10-minute stretch and shrinking it to 8 minutes, maybe even 6 minutes. Is that kind of the approach right now this early in the season?
Yeah, I think getting us, all of our guys on the same page on both ends has been, it's taken time. I mean, obviously we struggled on the road some, which is very natural because usually, weird things are going to happen on the road. They're just not going to come as easy. And so at home we've been better. But, I mean, yeah, I just think playing together, I think playing the way, we want to play, high assists, low turnover, moving the ball, and then playing really good defense. The last two games we've obviously given up a lot of, high shooting percentages, and we have been low assist. So just getting back to that, and we're playing some good defensive teams, so that might happen. But, I mean, you still getting back to where we're moving the ball and we're in control and we're, in control on both ends and doing what we want to do. So it's just consistency is you said it correctly. I mean, it's being consistent on both ends, and it's going to take time. But, I mean, we've shown that we can do it, and so that's the frustrating part. If we hadn't shown that we could do it, hey, it is what it is. Maybe we're just not very good. But this team can be good, and so that's what I just got to keep hammering that home to these guys. Hey, I know it didn't go our way, but you guys can be good. You've shown it. Let's watch the film. What can we get better? And every day you got to get better. So.
Yeah. How receptive have the players been, though, at this point, 7 games in? As you brought up, in order to be better, sometimes you got to look in the mirror, and sometimes it's hard to swallow those toughness pills, if you will. But that's one thing you got to do. You got to be honest with yourselves, and you got to figure out, all right, maybe I'm not doing the best things possible to try to make this work. So how receptive has it been when you do go back and you watch film?
Mm-hmm. They've been great. They really have. They really like each other. They do want to play for each other. I just don't think that they know exactly how to win and how to do that consistently. So the players being around them, great group. They like each other, like I said, and so you can't fault them for that, and the effort's there. And so that's, I mean, as a coach, it's frustrating losing games, but I mean, this is a group that I love going to battle with and going and trying to improve with every day. So I really do. And I have you can't say that every year, so especially when you're 3-4. So
well,
for sure.
And that's the thing too, right? I think you get so caught up, like you can, like right now, like if you were 0-7, but you still showed the spurts and you saw something from your team. I'm sure you'll be saying the same thing as of right now, because I'm sure everyone gets so caught up in the results game, and the results game always is usually wins. That's the one thing you look at. It's wins and losses. But in so many of your shoes, it sounds like the results that you want to see, it comes down to what's actually happening on the floor. Like wins and losses, sure, whatever the record might be, the record's going to be at the end of the season. But at this stage of the game, it sounds like there's much more that needs to happen on the floor in that perspective, rather than just looking at wins and losses as being the end result this year.
Yeah, I mean, there will be games when I think we play well, we compete, and we may not win, and then vice versa. And so I mean, this year especially, I mean, in the past they just haven't won that much. So it takes so much work to get you to where you're playing at a level where things go your way at the end of a game where you can win. And so us just being able to stay in every game, is something, and giving ourselves a chance to win. We didn't have a chance against Bethany. If you look at some of the other games on the road, they've been 10-point games, or there's been a little bit of separation at the end. So I mean, we're talented enough where we can play in every single game, at home or on the road. So I mean, we just got to be more consistent on both ends, and kind of find our way, find our niche, find our calling card. And so that's what's taking a little bit of time.
Phil McClintock, our guest, the Friends men's basketball head coach here on the Friends Basketball Show from Walk-On Sports Bistreaux on ESPN Wichita. The next couple games for Friends: Ottawa, St. Mary on the road, Southwestern, and then Bacone to wrap up the December regular season. There is an exhibition game against Emporia State coming up on December 30th, but your next game is against a coach that you know all too well, and Aaron Siebenthal. You know Ottawa University like the back of your hand. I know last season it wasn't exactly the most ideal of seasons under Aaron Siebenthal and what Ottawa kind of expects every single year. But if I'm one to sit here and go, is that going to happen again? Odds are probably not, because I know how things work from Ottawa and just how good they've been for many, many years. They always seem to have the talent to be a potential top 5 team in the KCAC. Sometimes it doesn't always end up that way, because sometimes hard work beats talent and things happen. You get injured, that type of thing. But Ottawa coming off a win over Bethel, so that's a nice little feather in the cap for the Braves as they get their first conference win of the season. What do you see from Ottawa coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of similar things as them. It's going to be interesting because, I mean, I think practice-wise and guarding them, I mean, we'll guard their sets, but we run a lot of the same sets. So it's like, I mean, I know their calls. I know what they're going to do defensively. So really, I'm not super concerned about, prepping for the game like you do some, like, Bethany had a new coach and new players. So, I mean, you have to do a little bit more prep work. So that won't be as much as, I mean, a big a deal as matching their, they're going to be talented. They're big. They got a couple guys that can really score. So what are we going to do to, guard them? And how are we going to play, I mean, to be able to keep up with their scoring? Because, I mean, they're a team that's going to make shots and they're going to score the ball. So, I mean, we're going to have to put the ball in the hole too. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I mean, obviously being with Coach Sieb for 8 years, and Jamie, their assistant, Coach Badish, is one of my good friends. So, I mean, it'll be fun to be on the opposite sidelines, and it'll be good for us. I'm excited to get that game at home because, I mean, look at our record. We're a little bit better at home up to this point. So, it'll be nice to have that at home. So
7 o'clock tip taking place on Saturday. The women tip off at 5 o'clock. Be there at the Garvey Center. Then after that, you go to Leavenworth, a long road trip up to St. Mary, and the Spires. Troy can coach. Troy Brown has been doing coaching for a long, long time. He's one of those guys that ended up being an interim, ends up getting the main position, and he had some great teams over the years. I know it's been a little challenging the last couple, but right now they kind of seem like an incomplete team. Seems like there might be more on the way, but if there's one thing I know, the first couple years of me being in the conference, I did not like going to Leavenworth because I came back not celebrating a win. It was always a loss. I'm like, I'm getting tired of going up to this place and seeing losses, but it seems like that's always the case up there, up in Leavenworth. So your thoughts on St. Mary, and then obviously after that, you guys take on a top 15 team in Southwestern, a team that is very, very impressive this season.
Yeah, I mean, St. Mary's, like I said, it's a trip, which I haven't made that from Wichita, but I mean, I know it's a couple hours or over. I mean, maybe even 3, and so
it feels longer than 3.
Yeah, it's going to be a trip. So I mean, anytime you're making a trip like that, I mean, can you keep your guys locked in, for that long? We're gonna charter with the girls that trip, which will be our first time chartering with them. So it'll just be a little bit different, which is maybe going to be good for us. So a little different than what we've done on the road up to this point. So, but yeah, Troy, I'm close to Troy. I've known him for a long time. Great guy, and he can definitely coach. His teams are tough. It doesn't look like they're scoring that much, but Bethany wasn't scoring that much before we played them, and then they scored a lot. So we're going to have to be ready to play. I know they're physical, and like you said, winning in the Ryan Center is not easy, and so we're going to worry about Ottawa first. But I mean,
Right.
these are 3 big games coming up, and then we got Bacone. So
Yeah.
we need a strong finish, and we need things to be going in the right direction before Christmas.
Yeah, it's always that feeling of going into the winter break, just wanting to feel a little bit better. And then, of course, Southwestern being a top 15 team. Kevin Clark back, Andrew O'Brien back, Zach Hidalgo back. Some of their role players now starters. Only thing they're missing is Cooper Pierce and Deng Bull, but then they bring in Mason Thiessen from Emporia State. They bring in a transfer from Chesapeake College who is a 50% shooter from beyond the arc, and it's just – oh, yeah, well, typical Southwestern, usually pretty tough.
Yeah, they're going to be good. I mean, they always are, and they're, them and Oklahoma Wesleyan and Evangel right now are just, I think head and shoulders above everybody. K-Dub's there. I mean, it's just a crazy conference. So, I mean, every game you got to be ready to play, and so, and I can tell you I'm not looking ahead to Southwestern because we got Ottawa and then we got St. Mary's. So, I mean, it's game to game, and, I love playing teams like that, especially when you get them at home. So it's going to be fun, and I know Coach O'Brien coached at Friends, and so there's a little bit extra to that one too. So I'm ready for the challenge. I think our guys are too, and I know they won't back down. They're not going to be afraid. So, I mean, bring on kind of anybody we can play, and so we just got to keep getting better ourselves.
Well, every game's going to be a dogfight. That's the way it's been in the conference this year, and I'm sure that's going to continue in 23 and also going into 2024 as we approach the new year. Coach, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you this week.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Phil McClintock, the men's basketball coach at Friends University, here on the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM, also at Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. The Friends Falcons 3-4 overall, 1-2 in conference play. Friends will look to get back to 500 in conference action and 500 overall when they take on the Ottawa Braves on Saturday. 7 o'clock tip for the men, 5 o'clock for the women. Come on out and be a part of the fun inside the Garvey Center. Appreciate Walk-On Sports Bistreaux once again. They are always wonderful, good food with a southern twist. They also have many TVs on the walls, so if you are trying to find your game that you're looking for, you can always come out here to Walk-On Sports Bistreaux. They are always able to put it on the game that you need because they have so many TVs. No matter where you sit, you're going to be able to watch a game. That is for darn sure, for sure. On behalf of Phil McClintock, men's basketball coach at Friends University, I'm Pat Strathman saying so long from Walk-Ons, and thank you so much for watching and listening to another edition of the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM.